Hello, I'm Daniel Hinds, and I'm going to be reading to you from my debut poetry collection, New Famous Phrases, which is a finalist for the Big Other Book Award for Poetry and received an honourable mention in the Big Other Reader's Choice Award. So thanks very much to Big Other, to John Madeira, and to my publisher Broken Sleep Books and editor Aaron Kent. I'm going to start by reading the opening poem of the collection, called The Pact of Water, which is an origin myth for humanity's relationship with nature. The Pact of Water. A bargain was struck, like the wet smiting of a storm upon a shore. They signed in a squirt of squidding spray. Our pen tip crossed the white threshold. We looked up to them, those gods in cockle and seabone suits, shining upon the crest of a tsunami wave of Atlantean ore. We hockled our liquid libation in their drink, and the slick grease of our phlegm spread. Put your ear to a stone shell or a seal's black flank. Hear the submerged voices raised in the world's blood. Now we look down in Meropian blindness, discern no cities capped beneath blue brays. We let the water fall through our hands. It leaves a tentacle pucker mark. Next, I'm going to be reading a poem called Earth Giant, about the excavation and emergence of a monster. You may detect a slight Ted Hughes influence on this poem. Earth Giant. Grunged up from the slit hill, winches lift him from the cack. The criss-crossed crane girders bend and strain. His mouth hangs like a tree bowl. Hacked by looks and hefted sticks, soil pours off him in clumps, punctured by rods that scrape across the henge of his bones. Stone tinctured in iron, his moans tremble the quarry. Men in high-vis tap and scribble, brandish clipboards, pointing witches in white hats, or plastic knights with new lances. Floodlights clang on and drown out the black bubbles of his eyes. The prepared straps huddle the square of his shoulders, the limbs that curve like trunks and thicken at root and canopy. The muddy mallets of his fists are yet to pop and splay, the twist and shake of his fingers, the awe of his cracked nails. He leaves softer flames, caved-in porta cabins, stumpy footprints in a heaped mound, and men burst like wineskins as their bodies stretched in his hands. Whoever they were, it was a querulous quest or a shoddy summoning. Their villagers will worship the sparse rocks in his lips. The next poem I'm going to read to you actually started life as a science fiction short story, but I lost my notes and it ended up as something else. The Siren Star. On the first day, in the place empty of it, the spaceman cracked his nose, till his visor did the same. On the second, his grieving replacement, sent out to complete the essential maintenance. Downed tools, unlatched the white umbilic cord. On the third day, the astronomers with their one-wrinkled eyes, and the children given a telescope for their birthdays, by parents with too much disposable income, and too few ideas, disposed of their sight. On the fourth day, those who lived in overgrown concrete, cities snarled and starved of light, unpowered by the spark of their own invention, stood in the unshadowed fields, looking up. Like a sailor far from shore, surrounded by nothing and nowhere, they turned their gaze to the horizon, to see another sight, to burn away the infinite fields of grey and green and blue and white. On the fifth day, there were no seeing men left. On the sixth, no women. On the seventh, the last man put on his suit and left the station, his eyes sealed by the flame from his kit bag. Even then, he was still called to see. The citizens of the sun, 3 copper women scarred by the lines of 3 black holes of their necks, sucking in starlight. 3 eyeless women hair and gowns rippling like flags in an impossible wind. The ends of hard white limbs clotted black, exposed to empty chaos. She lifts his heavy glass mask and makes first contact with her lips. A pursed eclipse of dark-blooded skin bordered in bronze, and the scratch of fingers hard as metal on his Adam's apple. From that day, we took our breaths from blackness. I'm now going to read to you another Siren poem, this one inspired by T.S. Eliot's Death by Water, which it takes its epigraph from. The poem is called Death by Earth. Death by Earth, the stages of his age and youth. T.S. Eliot, Death by Water. They stand like tall dark houses, belt buckles on their hats, like their heads were waists, straining against the gristle they've grown fat on. They dragged her ashore, fishtail flailing. Tall hats, rough hands, black clothes and wire nets, her mouth shaped in red despair, handful after handful of dust, until she could no longer read their palm lines. They swallowed her in wet clay, like a man drowned a foot from the shore, scoured her with scooped handfuls of dust. The sea, damn the sea. The seabirds cried for their helping, and the waves retreated. My heart scales squirm and shake for vengeance. A death as ugly as the rock. Above her they built the sandy road. I could spend a lifetime searching for those harm-dried bones to swallow or hang about my neck. I'm going to finish with another T.S. Eliot inspired poem, this one inspired by the journey of the Magi. The poem is called The Magi's Camel. The Magi's Camel, with the voices singing in our ears. T.S. Eliot, Journey of the Magi. The fat god squats between back brays, does not discern the soft gasp as hoof meets grit. Even the dust fears the determined, unerring hammer of two dark nails. The murmur of cloth, creaking leather and dry lips, the gold of a weak winter's sun, a thin wash for a parched place, the sense behind of a conversation on direction, spoken frank. This is a life with few gifts, noses closed to scent, thick lashes shading even the season's poor wealth, the murder of your bones by flights of carrion birds. The shaggy and silken fortress moves, gains and loses territory with every step, stamps the sand with an alien sigil. A creature with 6 hands, 2 to bear the whip, 4 to do the work. The adoration of the Magi is a tough love, the way always of those of the hill and those who speak from the mount. Slick guts work the miracle, a drop will last a week. A drink lasts longest for those last to drink. Only the sight of a horse without rider, white and old as starlight, running masterless among long grasses, cooled and stilled by night, stirs the hard muscle of a young heart from its dry and steady beat. The blurred and furry pulpit makes its way across the desert. Magicians preach from the turret, but none here will follow the hard way. For all they say, only thick souls and spindle limbs know the hardness. They know the weight of all the far-travelled books of sorcery. The washerwomen and shepherds jeer, fling earth. They have their own magic to work. Yes, 3 kings, 3 trees, a star, a child, but 2 humps. Discarded crowns gain swift burial in the desert. No, the way back, the same as the way there. Thank you.